Today's episode is brought to you by my book, Blueprint to Business, an entrepreneur's guide to taking action, really committing to the grind, and doing the things that most people won't. In this book, I show you what it's really like to be an entrepreneur, what it's really like to grow a business, and I show you realistic approaches on how to grow your business and how to avoid the mistakes that I've made. I can guarantee you this. If you are in business, if you're looking to go into business, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a wannabe entrepreneur, this book will change your life. It's available everywhere. It's available on booksamillion.com. It's available on amazon.com. It's available on barnesandnoble.com. It's available everywhere. You can also pick it up on my website at www.michael-alden.com. Again, I guarantee you that Blueprint to Business will change your life. All right. Well, as you all know, my name is Michael Alden. We are here in Blue Vase Studios. It's just me, solo. We're not filming today, even though I'm looking at one of the cameras, and it's technically on, but it's not filming. I wanted to go over today, something special. A lot of people have asked me how I accomplished some of the things that I've accomplished recently. I was on the All Out show, Sirius XM satellite with Rude Jude in LA, and did that without a PR firm. Did that on my own. And a lot of people have asked me how I've connected with others, some big players like Grant Cardone, Blair, Dean Graziosi, Armando Montalongo, Marshall Goldsmith. A lot of people have asked, how does that happen? And, can you show me how to do it? Well, there's a couple different ways, right? And so in the classic, and by the way, I'm gonna tell you exactly how I did it. So, you might want to take notes. And might want to rewind it and figure it out, because this is something that's tried and true and it works. Okay, so networking, right? The first thing is, and I talk about this in Blueprint to Business. I talk about this in 5% More. Networking, right? If you're just starting out in business, if you're young and you don't have a lot of contacts, look, I started like everyone else, with relatively no contacts, especially again in the legal world. When I was an attorney, I didn't know anybody who was a lawyer, and I needed help, and so I reached out to people, through friends of friends. Hey, do you know a lawyer? Do you know anybody that's a lawyer? I just passed the bar exam, and I really don't know what I'm doing, and I need some help, and that's kind of one of the first things that you do. You reach out to people that and whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, whatever world you're trying to accomplish, and whatever world you're trying to get into, so to speak, right? So that's the first thing you kind of ask, right? You ask people, and that goes back to my first book, Ask More, Get More. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? Who are you trying to connect with? It's crazy. My neighbor, who just moved in across the street from me, kind of diagonally across the street, young guy. In fact, he looked so young. People were like, boy, he's really young. He's a veterinarian, successful veterinarian, couple kids, and I didn't know him from a hole in the wall. And, we just hung out, had him over for a gathering at my home, and just started talking about what I do, author, marketer, et cetera, et cetera. And his brother works for Gary Vee. Somebody who I have been consistently trying to connect with. And I've connected with him a little bit, not that personal. I went to an event that he held in Jersey as an intimate event, 40, 50 people there as a wine tasting. That costs a little bit of money, but it's just a part of, me trying to connect with him. And I've been trying to connect with Gary Vee for a long time, but through conversations with my new neighbor, would never happen if we didn't kind of just have that discussion, okay? So asking questions, talking to people, right, about what you're trying to accomplish. You'll be surprised at the amount of connection capital that you do have, even though you might be starting out, So talk to people about what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish, and don't be afraid to talk about that. You need to talk. You need to ask questions. You need to reach out for help, okay? I do it all the time, all right? Les Brown, okay, one of the most prolific motivational speakers of our time. I had him on my podcast, and I didn't know Les Brown. I listened to his speeches all the time. I play them on my Sonos system in my house. I'm just a big fan. You got to be hungry. Big fan of Les Brown. Always been a fan of his. It's not over until I win is one of his slogans, and it's a great speech. You should just go to on YouTube and type in Les Brown. It ain't over until I win, or it's not over until I win. Check that out. It's a great speech. And I was talking to a friend, and he had mentioned that he had a connection with Les Brown, just mentioned it casually. And so then my response was back to Ask More, Get More. Hey, do you think you could introduce me to Les Brown? Do you think you could introduce me to Les? I'd love to have him on my podcast. Love to have him on my podcast. So there's a couple things going on there. One, I asked if they could introduce me. And then two, and here's the other part. The other thing is I was offering to add value to Les Brown. Okay, I was offering to add value to Les Brown and his team, have him on my podcast. He had an event coming up, and I said, look, I'll promote the event. We'll get it out quickly. We'll get the podcast out prior to the event. We'll tell people where to go, tell them about the website, so we'll promote it, for him, okay? So, adding value to others is also a key element to this. It's a key element to it. Now, again, a lot of you might say, well, I don't have a podcast. Well, create one. Create a podcast right now. After listening to this, create your own podcast. I didn't have a podcast 3 years ago, and I've had some pretty big players on the podcast. And I started out just interviewing local entrepreneurs, asking them questions, and then from there, growing it out. And here's another part of the ask, okay? When you have people on your podcast or when you're connected with others, you ask them if they know anybody else. If you're in sales, you ask them, hey, do you know anybody else that might be interested in this product or service? When you have a podcast, you ask your guests, hey, do you know anybody else that could come on the program, right? And, they might say, well, yeah, sure. Well, what are you looking for? Well, I'm looking for, entrepreneurs, business people, interesting stories, thought leaders. They don't have to be famous. Just people that, might have, be able to also add value to you, right? So I'm trying to add value to you, and I'm trying to add value to others, right? And so, again, the theme there is we're adding value to people. And the other part, too, I think that you really need to, a lot of people have trouble with, is you need to have a genuine interest in what they're doing, okay? Like if you just want, Bill Gates to be on your podcast just because he's Bill Gates, and I think now as I'm talking, the second richest man in the world, I think Jeff Bezos just surpassed him. But, you can't just, you really, really need to figure out exactly what you're trying to do and really who you really want to connect with, and not just try and connect with random celebrities because they're giant celebrities, right? You need to figure out, kind of what you're doing, and also, again, have a genuine interest in what they're doing, So that's important. Have a genuine interest. Now, what do you do next? Okay, well, the people that I've had on my podcast, Ryan Blair, Grant Cardone, Dean Graziosi, Armando Montalongo, Marshall Goldsmith, and just the list, Forbes Riley, Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. The list kind of just goes on and on and on. And Nolan Bushnell, the founder of Atari and Chuck E. Cheese's. Okay, it's a big, big, big one. Dave Asprey from the Bulletproof Diet. Lewis Howes, the New York Times bestselling author of The School of Greatness. And he just released his second book called The Mask of Masculinity. So what did I do? Well, had a genuine interest in all these people. Genuine interest with all of them. I'm interested in what they're doing. I'm an entrepreneur. They're entrepreneurs. They're business people. They have interesting stories. And, I'm following them. I'm liking them. So if they post something, I like it. If I like it. If I don't like it, I don't like it. It's rare, but I don't like everything just to like it. I actually really like it. And then you comment. If you feel as though that there's something that you can add that's of value, and if you really like what they have to say and you want to just like it and then put a little, thumbs up or, hey, great content or whatever it is, do that, okay? And you'll start to get the attention of these people. These people do notice it, okay? So let's talk about Instagram in particular, all right? Instagram is an amazing resource for anybody, okay? You can like people's posts, you can comment on people's posts, and you can message them. And that's awesome. A lot of times, the business person will also have an email option. You can email them, right? The email might not go directly to them, but it's going to go to somebody on their team, okay? So that's how I've reached out with a lot of people and connected with a lot of people, and how I continue to reach out to people and try and connect with people. Like there's 3 guys right now that I'm trying to connect with because I'm genuinely interested in what they're doing, and I think what they're doing is just innovative for a lot of them and real and honest, and these are like the types of people I like to talk to. So there's 3 guys that I'm trying to connect with. Gary V, again, kind of connected with him a little bit. He's liked some of my likes, right? He's responded to a couple of my social media posts, so I've got his attention a little bit, right? Ty Lopez, I tell you, a lot of people are hating on him a little bit, and I'm reading the stuff on the internet, and I'm kind of watching him, and not really sure exactly what this guy's doing, but now I'm a fan, man. And the guy's a social media rock star. He's essentially doing infomercials online. He might not want to call it that, but it's kind of what he's doing. I've watched them. I've watched his videos. He's a direct marketer. We're both direct marketers, and he's doing a great job of incorporating direct marketing with social media. I don't really think that there's really anybody out there other than Gary V that's also doing such a great job in the social media world. So I'm interested in both of those guys. I want to talk to them. Love to have them on the podcast. Love to have them on the podcast so that you could listen to what they have to say and learn from some of the things that they could teach you just by being on the podcast. Now, here's kind of a secret, okay? How do you get people like that on? Like, how did I get, someone like Ryan Blair, who I'm now actually pretty good friends with? Like, how did I actually get him on? One, I read his first book, Nothing to Lose, Everything to Gain. Loved the story, genuinely interested in his story. And I was reaching out to him through every means possible, okay? My book, first book, Ask More, Get More, was next to his books at all the Hudson News all over the country, and I would see it. I'd take pictures of it, and I'd send him a message on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. I would email the email accounts that I would tied to it. I would email just Ryan at Visalis. I was doing everything I could to get his attention, basically telling him that I was a fan first. I wasn't asking for anything. Ask More, Get More is an important book, and it's an important concept to understand, but just coming right out and asking somebody for something that doesn't know you, that usually never works. But if you are going to ask somebody for something, you want to ask them for something that's going to then ultimately add value to them. So I originally, with Ryan Blair in particular, now actually a pretty good friend of mine, like I said, it's like, look, man, love your story. It's amazing, inspiring. I feel like my story's similar to yours, and I'd love to just connect. Love to talk. Love to have you on my podcast. And he never responded. He's a busy guy, right? He's a super busy guy. But he had another book coming out. And because I'm genuinely interested in what he was doing, okay, here's the key. Genuinely interested in what he was doing, I reached out to him and said, look, love to have you on my podcast. Love to talk to you about Rock Bottom to Rockstar. That was that's his second book. That's also another great book. So now, guess what happened? He responded and said, sure, let's do it. Okay? By the way, that took me, seriously, I want to say 2 years. Maybe I've had this podcast for 3 years, I think, and it took me about 2 years to do that. So don't give up, okay? Don't be discouraged by the fact that these guys aren't getting back to you, okay? 2 years. Now, Gary V, okay? So I have been really interested in Gary V. We're the same age. He's doing some great things. I've done some great things, continue to do some great things. I am just really a huge fan of his social media prowess, his social media know-how, and also his authenticity and the way he presents himself. He seems pretty damn real to me. And, I went to an event, like I said, in Jersey, and he was no different in person. He's a pretty normal guy that's really, like he says, just grinding things out, just hustling, just constantly and relentlessly working. And he's written a bunch of books, 4 books. He's got another one coming out, okay? He's got another one coming out, and I reached out to him right before his sneaker came out, the K-Swiss sneaker, Hey, love to have you on the podcast, right? Hasn't got back to me yet, but he will at some point. Now, remember I said earlier, I actually do have a direct connect. Haven't leveraged that yet. Haven't asked, hey, could you connect him with me? I'm going to do that very soon because when Gary's next book is out, he's going to be hitting all sorts of media. Love to have him on, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to get that done. Ty Lopez, okay? I have done a bunch of different things to connect with him. Found his address, got his business address. Sent him my book a bunch of times. I know he's received it. Sent him my vodka. I'm not sure if he's a drinker or not, but I sent him my vodka. I've messaged him on Snapchat, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. Okay, and he's liked some of the stuff, but he hasn't responded yet. But I can tell that he's read them. Now, here's the interesting thing about Snapchat in particular. You can tell if they actually open it. Now, whether or not Ty Lopez himself opened it is another thing. I'm pretty sure, he doesn't have people managing his social media. I feel as though that, they're managing some stuff to a certain degree, but, a lot of stuff he is, kind of actually doing himself, So, with a team, but so adding value, being genuinely interested, and being persistent, okay? The reason why I wanted to do this as well is I'll give you another example. Grant Cardone, okay? When I wrote my first book, Ask More, Get More, I didn't know anything about the publishing world. I was in Hudson News. I knew who Grant was. I picked up his first book. I think it was Sell or Be Sold, and that was, I believe, published by my first publisher, which is Greenleaf. It was either that one or If You're Not First, You're Last. One of those two was published by Greenleaf. My book hadn't been published yet. I then reached out to Greenleaf, and I noticed that his next publisher, and that was the 10X Rule, was Wiley & Sons. And I said, okay, well, that's who I want my second publisher to be. And guess what? My first publisher, Greenleaf. Second publisher, Wiley & Sons, right? And now again, my book was next to his book and Hudson News all over the place. And I was just reaching out to him, genuinely interested in what this guy's doing. You can't, again, you just really can't fake the hustle, that this guy has. And I, wanted to connect with him. So what happened? Well, next book, Be Obsessed or Be Average, book coming out. Now, prior to that, by the way, I had reached out to him directly and said, I have this book, Ask More, Get More. My book is next to your book. I'm doing some great things. You have this show called Power Players. Love to come on. He responded and said, come on. Now, where's the value there? Where is the trade, so to speak? Okay, well, I was adding value to him by coming on his show because of the content creation and the story, right? I was adding value to him that way. Okay, he was adding value to me because he's Grant Cardone, and he's got a huge, huge following, and I was able to get on his platform, so to speak. So now I have a connection with him. From there, after that, I asked him for a cell phone number. I said, hey, man, I'd love to stay in touch with you, and 9 times out of 10, they're going to give it to you, right? So I have his cell, text with him here and there. We're not like best of friends or anything like that, but every once in a while, I'll text him, he'll respond back. And, I'm just, again, genuinely interested in what he's doing. And he's, doing some amazing things. Be Obsessed or Be Average, getting ready to come out. I reach out to Grant and said, Grant, I'd love to have you on. No problem. Boom. Grant Cardone on my podcast. Okay. Pretty amazing. Dave Asprey, right? The author of The Bulletproof Diet, right? And The Bulletproof Products, and also the book Headstrong. How did that happen? Well, that happened because I noticed a friend of mine, Craig Hanley, who's also on my podcast. He's actually a friend just because we're in the same world and a business rock star. And I said, Craig, man, I would love for you to connect me to Dave Asprey. I just love what he's doing. I think it's pretty awesome. Love his products. And I'd love to connect with him. Dave originally said no. I followed up again, said yes. Okay? Just because you get a no doesn't mean it's over. Eventually he said yes. He's a busy guy. He's traveling all over the world. He's speaking. He's running this business. Just raised $30 million to grow the Bulletproof brand. So he's doing a lot of different things. So there's the other key part to it is persistence. Okay. Now, Grant Cardone kind of talks a little bit about this, and be obsessed or be average, right? I say be relentless or be forgotten, and I had a hard time kind of wrapping my head around that, being afraid that I was going to, turn people off or what have you, There's nothing wrong with being persistent. You might be considered annoying by some people, and it just kind of is what it is. Now, there is a delicate balance, but if someone gets annoyed by you and they're done with you, they'll just shut you off, man. They'll just block you, and that's it. Call it a day, okay? I had Andy Frisella. Think he's doing some great things. He actually blocked me on Instagram because I was just kind of just busting his balls a little bit. I'm from Boston, and I figured he would get it, and he didn't like I was busting his balls. He thought I was being negative, so he blocked me. Is what it is. Think the guy's a rock star. Think he's doing some amazing things. He's got a great podcast, the motherfucking CEO, the MF CEO, and I listened to it, a while back. Thought it was, doing some good stuff. Blocked me because he, probably found me annoying. And what are you going to do, man? What are you going to do? Kind of is what it is. So, don't be afraid of that. It happens. Here's the deal. At some point in the probably very near future, I'm going to probably share a stage with this guy. And I'll meet him, talk to him, connect with him, and hopefully we'll be able to, hopefully maybe he'll unblock me, because I think the guy is actually doing some pretty good stuff. His podcast is cool, and again, it's called the motherfucking CEO, and so I think it's good stuff. So add value, okay? Be persistent. Use all the tools that are out there, right? Now, Snapchat, same thing. You can reach out. You can send a message to people on Snapchat. Now, they can decide whether or not they're going to accept it. Now, some people, depending on their settings, not everybody will be able to accept it, but that's okay, Use every resource that's available to you. Email, okay? Mail. Actual mail itself, if you can get the right address, send them a letter. Those ones are tough to actually get to people. But in the social media world, you really have a direct connect to pretty much everybody. And you can connect with them. You can grow your business. Someone just recently said to me, they said, Mike, you have this podcast. You've had all these amazing people on. I have some amazing guests coming up, by the way. So if you're listening now, I tell you, we have some great content coming up, and you're gonna love the people that are coming on. And the only reason why they're able to do it now, why they're coming on, is because it's taken me 3 years to kind of build this up. And I'm not making money doing this. That's something people say, you making money doing that? I said, I'm not making money. The podcast, and there are guys like John Lee Dumas, like that's his business, okay? JLD. He makes money doing this. I don't make money doing this. Be candid with you, am I going to try and find a way to monetize this, have another stream of income, or maybe even just cover the cost of my studio? Because I'm not sitting in my bedroom at my home. I actually have a production studio. I use it for more reasons than this, but it's not cheap. And if I can monetize this, I will. But for me, it's building my connection capital that I talk about in Blueprint to Business. I talk about it in 5% More. Building your connection capital is a great way to really increase your net worth. And people would say, what do you mean your net worth? Well, look, if you can add value to people, if you're genuinely interested in what they're doing, you essentially increase your net worth. And it's not necessarily dollars in your bank account, but your connection capital can lead to other things. And I learned that term, connection capital, from my friend Larry Benet, and I always try to give him credit for it. I've been doing it essentially my whole life. But he's the one that kind of taught me that term, connection capital. So you can kind of build your business that way, and that's really what I'm doing. So a lot of times, there have been some deals that I've put together as a result of this podcast. Ryan Blair in particular. So Ryan and I met because I was persistently reaching out to him and genuinely interested in what he had to say, i.e. a fan. Then I was able to offer value to him. We connected, and then now we're always looking at deals and trying to do some deals together. And by the way, he's helped me too as well. When I launched my network marketing company, Cloisonne, I looked at what Visalis had done. They had built that huge business, done close to $2 billion in sales, done a lot of great things. And I just asked him, hey, look, what about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And, he had to be careful because at the time he was, still, their CEO. So, but he just, gave me some just kind of, off the cuff advice of, friendly advice on some of the things that you need to look at when you're in the world, of network marketing. All right, last one. And this is kind of why I did this. Again, Rude Jude. So he, when I had him on, I know I mentioned it earlier, but when I had him on, I was, again, just generally interested in his story. His books, Hyena and Hummingbird, definitely not for everybody, but, when you really read his stories and understand the rawness of it and how he grew up and how he's lived and how he continues to live, it's beyond honest. It'll make you laugh. It'll make you cry. It'll make you cringe. But what I was interested is from the business perspective. I'm like, man, I'd love to talk to you about the business side of it. So he wrote the 2 books. I showed him all the different people that have been on my podcast, all these New York Times best-selling authors. And there's a ton of them, right? It's, again, if you're listening, obviously it's the Alden Report, right? By the way, share this with people, right? Share this with people that, your friends, people in your social media network that, that may be interested in this. If you feel as though that's adding value, just share it with them. And also, if you could, drop me a review. I don't have a lot of reviews. I haven't asked for reviews, but I'm asking for them now. Give me a 5-star review if you think it's worthy of 5 stars. And then share it with people as well. But, back to Rude Jude. So had him on, we connected. By the way, we just released it and we went 1 hour and 10 minutes. And, I think it was an awesome interview. I think it was different than anything he had ever done before. And then after, he said to me, hey, Mike, would you like to come on my show, the All Out Show, here in Los Angeles, a week prior to my book, Blueprint to Business, launching? And I said, are you kidding me? Absolutely. I flew all the way across the country just to be on that show. It's funny, when I sat down in the studio, he said, what brings you out here? And I was like, well, I got a lot of stuff going on. And I wasn't totally candid with him. But I flew out there knowing that I could accomplish more than one thing, but that was really kind of the main reason why I went out there. And by the way, the reach he has is ridiculous. And then from there, who else did I meet? I met Ludacris. Ludacris and Rude Jude both took my products on air and started talking about my products on air, my product Clarazine and my product Androzine. Started talking about it and started talking about the benefits of it. It's kind of silly in the way they did it, and it was funny, and there was a great conversation, but I didn't expect that to happen, okay? So when people talk about making money with the podcast, does that turn into dollars and cents? It certainly will at some point. From there, I meet Jason Ellis, who is another Sirius XM star, so to speak. Big fan of his on Howard Stern. Crazy fucking stories this guy's had. He's again, not for everybody, but interesting cat. He's interested in maybe writing a book. And, this is, my 4th book. And Jude was like, look, man, I'd love to talk to you about marketing. And before I know it, I'm talking to Ludacris, Rude Jude, and Jason Ellis about marketing, books, supplements, and they're asking me questions. None of it would have happened if it wasn't for the fact that I had this podcast. Okay, earlier again, like I said earlier, just start one. Not that difficult to do. If I hadn't had this podcast, if I wasn't genuinely interested in what he had to do, if I wasn't persistent, and if I wasn't adding value, that would have never happened. So this is how it works. I've given you essentially the secrets. Now, all you need to do is do it. again, last time, if you enjoyed this, if you feel as though that it is adding value, if you could share it, if you could like it, if you could review it, I'd really, really appreciate it. And also, if you haven't picked up a copy of my book, Blueprint to Business, it's available everywhere. Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. Pick up a copy. It's also available digitally. And then when you do, if you could post it on social media with the hashtag BPTB, drop a review. I'd really love for you to do that. And so I hope you have a terrific day. Again, I hope this added value. And we will see you soon.
I knew it! You got a copy. I read from the blueprint.
Today's episode is brought to you by my book, Blueprint to Business, an entrepreneur's guide to taking action, really committing to the grind, and doing the things that most people won't. In this book, I show you what it's really like to be an entrepreneur, what it's really like to grow a business, and I show you realistic approaches on how to grow your business and how to avoid the mistakes that I've made. I can guarantee you this. If you are in business, if you're looking to go into business, if you're an entrepreneur, if you are a wannabe entrepreneur, this book will change your life. It's available everywhere. It's available on booksamillion.com. It's available on amazon.com. It's available on barnesandnoble.com. It's available everywhere. You can also pick it up on my website at www.michael-alden.com. Again, I guarantee you that Blueprint to Business will change your life.